master, the Fidge god himself, Skippy Sigmatic, is back. He's back from the maiden voyage of the SS Fidget Freighter. You should point more. Can you point at the fidget spinner? Yeah, and back to me. Oh, okay. Guys,
That's
welcome
right.
back to Push to Shout. It's been a month. An entire month. And
wow.
I got stuff to talk about. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. But it's not all about me. It's about Skippy, too. Skippy Sigmatic, the other person on the podcast right now. The host with the most. What have you been up to, man? What's up? It's been a while.
Got off the Alaskan cruise. Was on an Alaskan cruise for like the last week, and that was nice and fancy. And I don't have much to say about it, or I would have much to say about it, but you know what Alaska's like, right?
It's cold, I heard.
Whatever. Who
Lame.
cares? You know, I mean, there were no video games up there.
No gaming.
just
It's not
no
even
games.
the gaming capital of North America.
So, just glad to be home, be able to play video games.
You can watch
feet started
esports
hurting,
again.
you know.
You can participate in esports, think right about esports, make content about it. This is an esports podcast now, actually. I forgot to mention that on the tweet.
Well, that's good because I'm really good at esports, and I play a lot of them.
Yeah, me too. But I'm better.
I'm
number one.
I actually don't have much to say about video games.
Really?
I haven't really played anything that I can think of since last time we talked, which was a while ago. And
Yeah, it was
I
back at
still don't have
E3.
anything. Do what?
Back at E3. That was the last podcast that we did.
Yeah.
We were talking about E3. Well, I'll talk about something, and maybe I'm sure you'll have a lot to add to this.
Jog some memories. How about
Yeah,
that?
so-
Maybe I'm playing something and I just forgot. That's all.
Way back in the day, when we were doing that E3 episode, I had just bought a Vive. I had just placed the order, and it had not arrived yet. It arrived a while ago, and I've been playing lots of VR games. And I want to talk about it, because it's a very, very exciting technology. It's very cool, completely seriously. Super Hot VR, I think, is easily the best experience in VR. Nothing's close. It's the only thing that's like a real video game. I'll only qualify that by saying I haven't played Elite Dangerous.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say Elite Dangerous is a must-play experience, really. It's just a good example of, like, cockpit games, and, like, it's a little bit more immersive than a lot of VR games because there's no, like, teleport around bullshit. You're just playing a character sitting in a chair controlling a ship, and that's what you actually are doing, is sitting in a chair controlling the ship. So it's like you get more of that one-to-one feeling with it, I think. And it's really cool being able to, like, dock in a station and look around you and see all the other ships and stuff. But it's not like... I don't know. It's not a must-play VR experience. I just think that more games should do the cockpit thing because that's an area where it really shines, you know?
Yeah, I'm not super into cockpit games, but the little bit I played of House of the Dying Sun was very cool. I like to, just looking up through the upper window of the cockpit is amazing. Being able to see the metal of the cockpit around you and look down, and it's all physically there at the right depth, and then you look out through the windows and you can see planes, or I call them planes, they're spaceships, above you and flying in formation and stuff, and it's just amazing. It's you can't experience it until you actually try it. But cockpit games in general aren't really my thing. Like, I thought that was cool, but it's not something I could really see myself playing for a long, long time. I would like to try out a racing game or two. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Dirt. So I think I've told you this. My dad's he's the only game he plays is a racing simulator, iRacing, and he got
That's
the
the one that's
Oculus
like
Rift
super
for that.
realistic, right?
Yeah, it's super realistic. It's online in like a competitive way where it like ranks you and stuff, and like it's a subscription based thing and all that stuff. It's pretty serious. And I installed Dirt Rally on his computer, and it is the most fun thing because he's got a really nice steering wheel and pedals with like force feedback brake and all sorts of stuff, and it is so much fun to drift a fucking car around these dirt tracks and like look out the side windows as you're counter steering and stuff. It's just unbelievably fun. So I think driving games are really awesome on it. I just it's another one where like it's kind of like some of the cockpit games that I play. Like you almost need the joystick and throttle to get the full experience of Elite Dangerous or DCS or something like that, and you kind of need the steering wheel and pedals to get the full experience of the driving games. Although I think a controller will still give you a pretty good one. Like it is really.
The force feedback seems like it would really elevate it.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be able to feel it kind of fighting you would
Exactly.
add a whole lot to drifting and you know, Tokyo drifting, any kind of drifting you want to do. It's all fair game.
Whether it's
in
Tokyo
VR.
drifting or dirt drifting, the two kinds of drifting, it's all.
Well, they're the most important kinds. There are more unorthodox drifting methods that we won't get into. We don't have the time, but maybe we'll write a piece on that someday. But back to Super Hot, because fuck, man, you haven't played it yet. Still
Still haven't
you?
played it.
Dude, why?
I don't know.
There's something wrong with you, because that is like the thing that justifies that purchase to me. I mean, maybe not everybody.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really heard that reaction. I mean, people say Super Hot's really cool, it's really awesome, but like, not that it's a justifying, what do they call it, software killer.
Yeah, maybe I'm just biased toward arcade shooters and shooting galleries. Those were my favorite games growing up.
Yeah.
Whenever I would go to the arcade, like with my brother, I was always playing Time Crisis. Time Crisis was that game with the pedal where you would press on it to peek out, and you had a limited amount of time to shoot everybody, and people would pop out at shooting you. And I had those bullshit red guys who would be like perfectly accurate, and then you'd memorize where they were, and then you know, I just liked memorizing where they all were, and then just getting better and better at doing it until I could get like through the entire game on just a quarter.
Well, then have you played Space Pirate Trainer?
I played that at a demo like a while back.
Because apparently that's the best one of those.
Okay. Maybe like in terms of an arcade shooter type.
Yeah.
But Super Hot's way more than an arcade shooter.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it. So, like, what I mean is the arcade shooter thing of having a gun and shooting in a video game.
The light gun experience.
Right, exactly. That has always appealed to me a whole lot. And on PS2, I got the PS2 version even of Time Crisis 3. I played the shit out of that, did all the bonus missions, and it was probably a terrible game in retrospect, but I didn't notice at the time. And Duck Hunt. My dad had an NES that I would play. Duck Hunt was like my favorite game for the NES. That and Mario. But
Did
anyway,
you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to sidetrack you again.
Go ahead.
Did you know that the light gun games, the old classic light gun games, the way that they would detect where you're pointing on the screen was by using the CRT line scanning. So like every frame, a CRT monitor, scans each line in a frame, and it will actually detect the timing of it. So like your gun is looking for when that frame updates, and so it knows exactly when you press the trigger because it's updating that line on the television that the gun is pointing at when you pull the trigger, and so it knows you're pointing at that part of the television screen.
I knew
which
how
is just
the light
insane
worked, but I didn't know about the scan line thing.
Yeah, and I hope I'm not completely wrong on that, but that's what I heard. I forgot where I heard that, but I was blown away because it's such like it's a good example of like a crazy good analog idea that like it's simple in concept but really clever and kind of crazy that they pulled it off. But yeah,
they
really
must
cool.
have been very resourceful to pull that off
Yeah.
in the 80s. So Super Hot, there's a lot of games in VR that are gallery shooters where there's just stuff coming at you. That's, I'd say, most VR games. If there's a single like shovelware genre of VR game, there's two contenders for that position. There's the fuck around and do lame stuff, like job simulator ripoffs, where you're just like doing some stupid little
You're
thing.
in a room messing with stuff.
Yeah, you're just messing with objects in VR. That's one type of thing. And then there's shooting galleries. Super Hot, it marries those perfectly and makes something better, where you can pick up these objects and toss them at people, and it feels so good and accurate. And honestly, it's revived the speedrun bug in me that I had a long time back, where Super Hot the game I didn't play until after Super Hot VR, and honestly, it doesn't hold up. By comparison, it's a much less interesting game, because the feeling of dodging the bullets as they come right past your face or right above your head, and you duck below them. One standout level, I might have mentioned this before, but a standout level, you're on a pole dancing stage, and there's 3 dudes surrounding you, and they're just laying into you with bullets, and you don't have any real way to defend yourself. So all you can really do for a limited amount of time is just very deliberately weave your way through all these bullets, and you're physically doing it by just ducking under and poking your head out, and it's so satisfying to execute in this game. And you can get perfect. You can get perfectly perfect at executing these levels, and they're well designed too, so there's lots you can do with it. Like, oh yeah, this level has a bottle that I can pick up, and if I throw that 100 feet to my right, then if I kill this other guy fast enough, it'll still be flying by the time I teleport to the other part of the level and kill this other guy when he spawns in. Like, you can get balls crazy optimized in this game.
Yeah.
And I've just been loving every bit of it. The whole game, on your first playthrough, will probably take you 2 hours. I've played this game for 60 hours or more at this point.
Oh shit. I never knew there was any replayability to it even. Like, I thought everyone just played through it and then they were done.
It's the only VR game I found with any replayability.
Have you thrown a gun to yourself and caught it when you teleport?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can.
Cool.
It's great. It's amazing. And I've done every challenge in that game, and this I gotta talk about too. I tweeted about it, and I think I told you about it, like, on Steam.
Oh, yeah.
But I got super into the game, and it was one of those rare occasions where I'm like, I want 100% this puppy. I want to get every achievement, do everything, beat every challenge, and platinum the game, even though that's not really a thing on Steam. I wanted to get everything because I liked it. I liked it a lot. And so I did. I did all the challenges, and some of them are really, really difficult. And not just, like, skill difficult and video game-wise. I mean, they're physically demanding.
Yeah.
Some of them. One of the challenges is beat the game in 10 minutes. Another is speed run it as fast as you can. You got to get below a certain time. That's different from the whole game in 10 minutes challenge. You have to be even faster. Then there's beat the game as fast as you can in terms of game time. That one is a trip. It's not as, like, exhausting as the other modes, but you have to be so exact in every movement that you make, because it's VR. You've got your hands and you got your head, and you can move them all freely. And unlike in Super Hot PC, where you're moving around and you can, very deliberately control when you're going to move time, and, you kind of move in little digital increments. Hit left, you move left a certain amount, Super Hot VR, as slow or as fast as you move physically is how fast the time in the game moves. So you really feel like statues still meditative, figuring out what you're gonna do next, and then you gotta execute with the minimum amount of movement possible to get exactly the perfect. I don't know. Everything about that is exactly what I want to play. And
I need to try it.
Just couple that with the best VR presentation. That art style in VR is next level. I mean, It's just great. There's some good realistic looking stuff in VR. Did you do that Arkham game?
No, that looks really stupid. Yeah, I can't
really
believe they were charging people money for that.
It is really stupid. I don't recommend it. It's very dumb and very short, and it basically just amounts to you are Batman in the Batcave, and then you get a Batarang, and Alfred talks to you. Then you sit in a cage, and Killer Croc eats Robin, and then you become the Joker, and then the credits roll.
Oh.
And that's the whole game, and it lasts like 30 minutes.
Spoilers.
It sucks. Nobody should buy it or play it unless you can somehow get it for free or try it at somebody else's.
I felt like that's what
Steam.
it was made for, is to try at like VR mall kiosks or wherever.
It seems
you
that way,
try
but they're
VR.
charging for it on Steam.
Yeah,
so.
it's insane. It's insane what they're charging people for, software-wise, in VR.
Because there's a drought of content.
Yeah, it's bad, but still, it's getting there.
To be honest, though, Superhot VR is all I need. Like,
Yeah. Wow.
Or even just games like that, or God, if they release some kind of mod tool for that, I don't even know how they would manage that. But if there were more levels to play, that would just be hours and hours of my life gone. But I would not miss them.
Have you tried? Did you try Google Earth VR yet?
I did. That's so cool.
It blew my mind. I mean, it's not, it's not a game.
You were right. The outdoor things, or like the outdoor landmarks, definitely
like
hold up
mountains
better
and stuff.
than like your average like residential or semi-populated area. But you can get some pretty good cities too. Like they're not. It's not like being there like it is being there on the top of Mount Everest. Feels like in Google Earth VR. But still, to like go to Singapore or something, and just to kind of get a feel of what it kind of looks like, is still very, very cool. And
it's really
not
cool.
something that you can do without VR. Another just simple thing that I got to do is, in VR, I got to fly down to the city where I work, and I got to get down close to the ground level, and I got to point right at the little window where I sit on the other side of, and it's right there in front of me, and I feel like a giant, and it's just so wild. And and all that said, everything you said about what needs to be better is 100% true. Yeah. That cord, it blows. I hate that wire.
I still don't hate the wire. Like, I think that's what most people say. Like, if you ask someone who's played a lot of VR, like, what is the one thing that you would improve first? The cord would be the last thing on my list, honestly, because but I think it's because I mostly use it for sit down cockpit games.
That's probably,
I mostly use it for flight sims and stuff, and so the cord definitely doesn't matter at all for me in that regard. But like, I think that the resolution is needs huge improvement. I think the peripheral needs to be a little bit better. Those two things, I think, are obviously going to be the two things that are not easiest to improve, but like most inevitable. Like every year, that's going to get better and better in terms of the price range and ability to implement it. And then making it wireless would be really, really good for those room scale
Seems
games.
Like the battery could get really rough for a wireless
there's a
VR
long way to go with a wireless, I think. It's just like that's a little bit further off.
I don't even need the wireless at this point. I just need a better cord that doesn't like decide to strangle itself.
They need a system with it. Like, they need there's been a few things where I've thought like, well, couldn't you like have some kind of harness is a weird word to use, but you could like just have something really simple that like goes over your shoulders or something and kind of keeps it away from your arms, because that's the biggest problem with it to me is I get it tangled up in my arm or I yank it.
This guy, some Australian guy, I think, and he makes VR art in 3D in the tilt brush tool, and he's pretty good. They're pretty impressive considering
it is really cool to see that stuff
he's using. And his setup, he had like the cord running up to the ceiling and running through like a hook so that in his space he can walk around freely, but the cord is always going straight up, so it's not getting tangled at all.
That's what I thought, cool, like in my head. That was like, well, that's the most obvious like solution in my head is like, a system that goes up to the ceiling and has just you drag it around with you, but like, you can't. The average person obviously can't do that, so not really much of an option. But
the real problem with the cord is, I am not playing sit-down games for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm playing Super Hot, which is incredibly active. I'm playing Rec Room, and when I do, I'm mostly playing the shooter stuff in that, come to think of it. I'm playing the quest mode, which was a whole lot of fun, by the way. That was really
still
fun
need to
play.
still need to try to finish
We
that.
gotta beat that. I think it's doable
Insanely
with 2
tough.
people. I think we can do that. That and like the paintball mode, all that is like a lot of moving around and turning and crouching, and when you do that for an extended period of time or even just a couple days, that cord, it starts to like mutilate itself. It gets all twisted up and kinked to the point where it's almost like if you ignore it too long, you think it's just going to start damaging itself. I don't know. It's kind of rough.
I've had mine get twisted, but not like, I don't know. I'll just untangle it at the end of the session or before the session, and it doesn't get twisted enough while I'm playing to be a problem. Because, like, I don't know, before I went on my trip, I did a pretty long session just going through, mostly trying the new Valve implemented stuff.
Do you mean like the VR home stuff?
Yeah, where you download, like, the maps or experiences or whatever, and there's, like, multiplayer stuff. That was really, like, surprisingly in-depth, and some of it was really neat, too. But, yeah, I was experimenting a lot with that stuff, and, like, it was a lot of room-scale stuff. And I was probably going for hours without, I would take breaks, but I wouldn't untangle the wire, and it wasn't that bad. So I don't know, maybe you do a lot of spinning around that I don't do or something.
It could just be the sort of games that we're playing. I mean, Super Hot is the biggest offender, I think, just with how much motion that you have to do and how quick you have to do it. But I'll stop talking about Super Hot for now. I couldn't recommend it more highly. And just to bring it back to Time Crisis, compare the price of a Vive to like an arcade cabinet, and if you're super into light gun games, it's kind of the best possible light gun experience. Yeah. So
absolutely. I think that's what more people should make is not competitive, but tough arcadey light gun experience.
I want video games. I want to play video games in VR.
Like classic.
You can
like, why
lose
not,
or win.
Yeah. Why not do that classic, like, hide behind cover, waves of enemies come at you, you move to the next piece of cover, waves of enemies come at you. I mean, I know that people have done that, but, like, nobody's done it well. Like, get a good developer on something like that and make it actually, like, have a good leaderboard and everything, and, like, make it hard to win, and that would be a really fun thing to try, and, like, especially if you can play it with friends and stuff. I think that was the thing about the Rec Room update, that, like, Rec Room always seems to figure out, like, here's what we can do to make this a fun multiplayer experience, and that's what's impressive about it to me, is, like, it's not doing anything that other games aren't doing. It's just doing it so much better and implementing it in a way that's a lot of fun.
Have you played Sports Bar VR? I haven't yet. I got it.
No.
I didn't start it yet. It seems like it's going to be the same thing, but more like billiards and poker. I think that could be kind of cool. Oh, shit! I forgot the depressing end of my achievement story.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I wanted to do all the achievements in Super Hot VR, and so I did. I grinded out every challenge, and it took fucking hours, and I was sweating like a pig, and it was really hard. And I finally did it. Everything, 100%, cleared the entire game. And there was an achievement for clearing the entire game. It did not unlock when I cleared the entire game. And apparently, this just happens. There are other people it's happened to where it just doesn't realize that you... And I know I shouldn't care, but I fucking care, because you know what? Of the 3 games I've ever, like, had that drive to, I want to do everything, this was one of them, and it was a big pisser. It was a big, like, so disappointing to finally finish it and just nothing. Crickets.
That's life.
So
I think I think they did that on purpose. It's like a Super Hot. It's one of their meta commentary.
Yeah. Well, I out-meted them because for the first time ever, I downloaded a program and I gave myself the fucking achievement because fuck you, I earned it. So that's my super hot story.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm a big man.
Yeah, that's very cool. It is surprising how much of a workout it can be, just because like not a workout, but you'll notice like, oh crap, my legs and feet are sore right now because I've been not only just on them constantly, but doing a whole lot of crouching and getting back up and crouching and getting back up. Like if you're doing any kind of shooter,
the super hot speedrun mode is an actual workout because to advance the game, whenever you clear out a room, you have to like wait for the thing to appear to grab to teleport, and it's set on a set in-game time. And as you know, the in-game time is determined by how fast you're moving. So whenever you clear out an area, when you do the in-game challenge, you gotta go like this. And just jerk off both of your hands and whip your head around as fast as you can. It's honestly, that is the most intense part of it, and I don't even care. Like, it's very silly, but if you do like the 10-minute challenge, if you do a couple attempts at that, you'll be sweating like a pig. I mean, you'll just be drenched. I always have to turn the AC down or up or whatever when I'm playing because the headset does get pretty warm. Oh yeah, and you're doing a lot more moving around than you usually do in your home. Might be my least favorite part about VR. It's just the headset gets gross. I don't like the way. I'm a pretty clean individual. I wash my face and I shower and I all the modern conveniences, I take full advantage of them. Yeah, good for you. And still though, like it's like stinks because sweat it gets into the foam and I don't know. I don't really sweat when I use it. I don't know. I get when I get warm, I turn up my thermostat, you know. I've got my thermostat that it attaches to my phone so I can just like come out real quick and crank it and then cool off. But it does get warm. It gets noticeably warm. I actually get way warmer doing the Oculus Rift on my dad's racing sim. Yeah, I've heard the opposite, but I haven't tried the Oculus, so I don't know. Well, I don't think it's because the Oculus is any hotter. I think it's just because it's a lot more stressful driving a race car, you know. I'd imagine. And like, yeah, your heart rate goes up because you're focused and you're moving that wheel and everything, and like, we've actually put a fan next to his system that blows on you while you're playing, and that totally solves the issue. But it also makes you less like motion sick and stuff to have that blowing on your face. But it is definitely a problem because it is uncomfortably hot at times. But you know, when I'm playing my flight sim and stuff, I'll be in it for a while and not have a problem, not start sweating or anything. DCS, so. That's the name of the flight sim you play a lot of. I love it. Yeah, it is. But I can't recommend it to anyone because you have to be so super ridiculously into it to learn. You actually have to learn the actual plane and everything about it to be competent at it and know how to take off and land and all that shit. So cannot recommend that game, but it's fucking cool. So you think it's a good casual VR demo experience? Absolutely not. Although I do think they were demoing it at E3. I think Thrustmaster, who makes like joysticks and stuff, they had a booth there where they were demoing the upcoming F-18 DCS module. But I think you just get in and it's already flying. And if the plane's already flying, I guess it's not much of an issue. You can point it where you want to go. It's a fighter plane. It's not like you're going to stall it or anything. So I guess that works fine for a demo. But actually playing the game, you have to... How does it simulate a stalling engine? It's not the engine that stalls. It's the wings that stall. It's when you slow down too much. I mean, the engine can stall too. Like you get what you call you get what you call a compressor stall, and the engine will start going boom, 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 and then it'll just completely cut off. And then you have to know the restart sequence, like throttle down, nose down to this speed and this altitude, flip up this switch to start up the restart sequence, watch the gauges, and when they activate, flip down the switch again, and all that kind of stuff. Like you have to know the sequences. You have to read the manual and look at the emergency procedures. Happens if you dive straight into the ground? What happens? You just die. Like, what do you see? What? The camera goes to a third-person perspective, and you see yourself exploding. Okay. It can be very shocking when like you get hit by a missile and die instantly, and you didn't even know you had a missile locked onto you. It's a very, very shocking experience. You're just like, whoa, because like suddenly you're outside of the plane and it's exploding. And the World War II one's actually better about that, I think, because like
like you'll just get lit up in your plane and not even know that someone was about to strafe you, and there's just like oil all over the fucking windscreen and fire and explosions and shit, and you're like, ah! And the whole cockpit's just, it's like those scenes out of Star Wars where people die and it's like it's like that in VR.
Wilhelm scream.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like that game a lot. It's a terrible game, badly optimized, badly made, badly supported. And it's terrible in almost every way, except for the fact that it's one of a kind and it fills a niche that I really like. So, yep, shitty game that I love.
I want to play Fallout 4 VR.
Do you want to pay an extra $60 to do it?
It ain't extra. I didn't pay for it. I didn't ever play it, really.
Well, I guess that's true. But I wouldn't recommend Fallout 4. It would be cool in VR. I totally agree.
Yeah, like, maybe the story's crap.
It is.
And maybe it's a bad RPG.
It is.
But if the exploration is kind of cool, and that's in VR, and then the combat is elevated just by being one-to-one hand motion, and I think it could be cool. I'll give it a try. And plus, there's nothing else to play. So.
I think it would be cool. If you haven't played Fallout, it's still probably not worth $60, but no VR game is worth its tag price.
Super Hot is...
Okay, Super Hot is. Rec Room is still
yes,
free.
Yeah. Rec Room definitely is.
Which is insane.
Sure. I don't think... To be honest, I haven't found anyone as enthusiastic about Super Hot as I am.
Yeah.
But Rec Room is definitely like a killer VR thing.
Yeah, I think it's the one. It's the one that everyone should be shown when they're skeptical about VR. It's just like, hey, jump in here and fuck around with people for a while in this Rec Room environment, and it's just like nobody cannot love that. Like, it's just so much fun, and of course it relies on like other people also being fun, but everyone's there to have a good time, and so you usually do have a good time, and they just keep updating it with goofy shit, and it's great. And DCS is free too. You get 2 modules. You get the Su-25T and you get the P-51 trainer, and you can fly those around.
But then the DLC for all the real planes.
It's expensive. Yeah. Although it is on sale this weekend, so if you're thinking about buying a MiG-21, go for it.
Yeah, I was thinking of reading up on how to operate one in my spare time.
MiG-21 is the most difficult one, and if you don't download an English cockpit, then you have to know what every switch does because it's in Cyrillic. If you can't read Russian,
that's so cool though. That
it was really cool. I learned what
language.
Everything did.
Damn.
Yeah, I learned what everything did without an English cockpit, and that was kind of crazy. Yeah, it's fun. And the MiG-21 is like, it's like old style Russian Cold War shit. So all these like really weird, stupid systems that like they've just thrown together in a way that works but badly, and like all these like quirks with the plane that you have to learn that are just like, I don't understand why it works this way, but it works this way. Okay. Yeah, it's fun. So yeah, VR. I'm glad you got it. It is cool. We need to play Squad. Yeah, that's the like a military sim Counter-Strike style. We've talked about it. I think they updated it recently. I don't know how. Like, I don't know how different it is, but yeah, it's like 4v4, 5v5.
Okay. It kind of looks like Pavlov or Onward.
I guess so, yeah. But I think it's not Squad. Squad's the non-VR military simulator. Onward is what I was talking about.
Oh yeah. We should play Onward.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I haven't played it in a while, but I always do have fun with it. It's just very slow. I wish it was a little bit somehow fast.
Pavlov is pretty fast paced.
Yeah, but that's like a more arcadey thing.
Yeah,
like I've seen Pavlov, and like it's a totally different. It's going for a different thing, but Onward has some issues that hopefully they're working on. That like I don't even really know what the exact solution is to them, but it's a slow-paced game, and sometimes it can kind of suck. But
what I would love to play is a game like Intruder, but in VR. Just some really stupid, simple thing that's based on like creative infiltration.
Lots of gadgets.
And gadgets are super important. To be able to like manipulate them would be awesome.
I mean, just straight up Intruder in VR would be amazing.
Yeah, you know what?
Like looking around corners with a little mirror and stuff. That would be really.
Oh,
It'd be really
That
great.
would be so cool because
You're
you
like
can
holding
angle
you're
it
holding the bomb
yourself.
switch in your left hand, and you're waiting for someone to come around the corner. That would be
Oh
really
my
cool.
god,
It
that
needs to happen.
that,
I
that
didn't
is
know
really.
about it. Didn't know it needed to happen until now, but it needs to happen for sure.
Isn't it made in Unity too?
Oh, it's like, I don't know if it's Unity, but it doesn't. It's not a particularly good looking game. But it might.
Because
I don't know.
Unity, not that you can just easily port whatever Intruder is into VR, but I'm pretty sure Unity has pretty robust VR support. So if that's what it's, whatever. I don't have really anything more to say about VR. I'm just a month or two in, I am satisfied. I don't feel like I paid too much for what I got, and I'm just excited to keep doing more VR because it's not a gimmick. It's here to stay. It's definitely the new thing.
Yeah. I wish more people were less skeptical about it, but such is life.
I get why they are, because
Yeah, totally.
you can't be sold on it until you try it.
Yeah.
There's no
Definitely.
other way. Anyway, well, other than VR, I finished Persona 5, and I can't
Oh
really talk
yeah,
about
Jesus. I saw your tweet and I was like, oh my god, this fucking guy.
I finished Persona 5. It was great. It did just about everything that a JRPG tends to do extremely well. With respect to the ending, and I don't want to be specific at all, but JRPGs in general, if you've played them, they all have a tendency. Well, it's kind of hard to explain what I mean here, but JRPGs are very long, and they're based in character progression. So you start out very weak, and then you kind of grind through a campaign of questionably exciting combat, and you visit lots of places and meet lots of different characters, and it all builds to some insane climax at the end where the stakes escalate to ridiculous levels.
Yeah.
And same is true of Persona 5. It's fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that game, and by the time I was like, I don't remember how many dungeons in it was, but there was a point where I was catching up with the frame story.
Yeah.
Because you've played enough, obviously. I mean, it's the beginning of the game, but there's like a frame story where you're being interrogated, and that's like farther in the future from where you're actually playing. You're kind of like remembering how you got there while you're being interrogated. And by the time I was catching up to that, I'm like, if I'm getting near the end here, then I don't know if... because on the one hand, yeah, it was a long game even up to that point, but it just... The regret was really like getting palpable. Like, oh my god, there's so much I haven't done, and I feel like I need to max out these social links here, and like, man, I never learned how to make the ultimate curry with my curry dad, and like, that was a real thing for me. Like, I got toward the end, and I got to a point where I had to min-max my kindness. I had to literally squeeze every drop of my kindness stat possible out of every day, just to reach a certain threshold to finish Sojiro's confidant. And I did. With 2 days left in the whole game, I finally maxed him out. And I was like, you know what? That's all I needed. That's the only one that I wanted. Also, Makoto is bae.
Oh my god.
She's wide.
One of those.
That
Whatever,
and
man.
the doctor. I maxed her at too.
The doctor is,
But,
well,
point being, by that point, I was like, shit, I don't think I'll be able to do everything I wanted to do, and it's ending now, but it wasn't. And the pace is very good and well considered. It gives you plenty of time to really feel things coming to a close, and by the time it's all over, you'll definitely have stuff where it's like, I wanted to do that, but didn't have time to. but you'll be satisfied with what you actually chose to do.
Right.
Because it gives you enough time to really get into a solid chunk of content that you're interested in. And if you're not interested in certain characters, you can basically ignore them. I can't talk about the story. I don't want to. And
Right.
I
don't want you to either because I'm gonna complete it.
It's not a
can't right now.
profound game. It's not like
No.
It's not Nier Automata. It is a story whose quality would be severely lessened if you knew what was coming, for sure. The way it unfolds is very well executed, and you wouldn't want to rob yourself of that. So I won't say anything, but
All right.
very, very good game. I may actually start up a second playthrough. I don't think I'll finish it out, but
Yeah.
the New Game Plus feature lets you keep your social stats, not like
Yeah.
your links to other people, but like your intelligence, kindness,
Yeah.
whatever. So it lets you get into all the confidants earlier, and because there are like certain thresholds you need to be above, like to start your thing with Futaba, you have to have this level of kindness, and so that stuff you get to keep. And whoever you maxed out, they give you a gift that you carry into the next playthrough. So, I don't know. I heard that the Shin Megami Tensei series that Persona spun off from is much more combat oriented, which I don't know if that's for me. But I was looking into it a little more, and there are people who get like super into the strategy elements of it. Like, apparently, if you crank the difficulty up, the strategic elements actually become good, possibly.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in seeing how that works.
It's like a trade-off, you know? Like, you want it to be a challenge to keep you interested, but also, if you're frustrated with the combat, then having it be more challenging is also really frustrating and not necessarily
the issue
fun.
is how heavily RNG based it is.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Like, oh, this enemy has a random chance to insta-kill the main character.
Yeah, that sucks.
Well, I don't know how many quality decisions I can make that would let me avoid that. Unless you get so ridiculous to the point where it's like, I know every enemy persona I'm going to encounter here, and this persona is going to give me immunity to that thing. So that way, even if somebody gets insta-kill, it's not going to be my main character. And maybe that is like really up some people's alley. Not
Maybe
mine.
you can go like, yeah, and like sometimes I would go like the ultra conservative route of like, oh, well, there's this one enemy that I'm afraid of, and I know it's in this area a lot, so I'll just keep this persona in my pocket. But yeah, and that's not up my alley at all. We've talked about it. I'm not a fan of the combat at all. It's as satisfying as it can be. It's definitely well made for what it is, but what it is, I don't like.
The insta-kills can be avoided. They can be avoided by stupid bullshit.
Off.
But if you just have no fun, then you can avoid them.
Yeah. If you liked Persona 5 all the way through and you like it that much, I highly recommend you try out Persona 4.
I really should play 4.
And then if you're still itching for more Persona, you can go back to 3.
I heard both.
The problem with going back 4, I think would be okay to go back to. The problem with going back to 3 would be the combat stuff. Although you can get like the PSP. There's like 5 different versions of Persona 3, and I think one of them has Persona 4 style combat. But the problem with 3 was that you only control the main character, and so you have to rely. You hate RNG. You have to rely on your teammates to do the right thing.
Oof.
And you can kind of like guide them in the right way and stuff, but like in the end, they're making the decision, and it sucks. But definitely one of the versions does fix that.
Actually.
Yeah, it's not cool. But it's still really strategic though, because it relies more on you like preparing for the worst and kind of being like really happy when the worst doesn't happen, you know, or like
great.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a more extreme version of it's the same strategies, but it's more extreme because the stakes are higher, I guess. But 3 also has some insane like difficulty spikes where like you'll be cruising and just doing really, really well, and then there'll be like one enemy that wipes you in 2 turns. But 3 does have issues, but there is a version that has 4 style combat where you control each character, and I think that version is like on the PSP, so it took out some of the cutscenes but I don't think that would be too big of a deal. I think it just replaces them with normal text.
I would be very surprised if they're as good as 5. 5 is just so polished and well made and interesting to look at and listen to, and it's,
I think,
really next level presentation, and that goes so far.
4 has good presentation and good music, but it totally pales in comparison on those fronts. But I would say the story's a lot of fun, and the characters are a lot of fun.
And I'm down for that. That's enough for me to play.
It would be worth trying, for sure. The biggest problem is that the dungeons are way less interesting because they're all like, well, not totally like, but they're similar to
my nose. I nicked myself shaving.
the characters are similar to what's it called in 5 where you go into the subway?
Mementos.
All the palaces are similar to Mementos, where it's kind of like randomized. You're just going through passages and killing stuff, and that sucks. But
that's one thing I can say about the story that's not a spoiler. I really like how it's structured, where you're going from design palace, you've got a plan, you're going after a person, and you got a set amount of time to do it, and it's like a mission. And you go into this actually designed place, and you go through the whole thing, and you fight the boss, and then you destroy it by taking the treasure. And then after that, you have these at your own pace, hit up these side missions in Mementos, and all the while, you're physically going down and down and down, and it feels like it's endless and nightmarishly complicated and folding in on itself. And
but the fact,
as you go deeper, it's just
the fact that the big pull to Mementos is Mona's story is what kept me going back to Mementos. And I guess that's the whole Persona thing, is like, even if you're frustrated with the combat, like, the story keeps you interested, and you're willing to push through stuff you don't like. I wasn't a big fan of Mementos. It's not terrible, but like, it's just more of that combat that I don't like. But what I ended up doing a lot with the Mementos was ignoring it for a couple of palaces, and then I would go back to it, and I'd be so insanely overpowered that it wouldn't even enter the combat stage. You know, you just knock down the enemy, and then it's over. Which is
great. I absolutely love that feature.
I'm glad they implemented. I was so happy when I saw that they did that.
Guess where that feature came from? Can you name that game?
No.
It's Earthbound. Earthbound did that.
That was a very good feature to implement, and I think it probably kind of not hurts you, but there's probably a lot more to benefit from Mementos if you do it at the same level and you're getting the items and stuff that would be beneficial to the palace. But I wasn't struggling that much with the palaces, so
maybe you need to on harder difficulties, but I never had a need. I never had a need to go to Mementos. Like, I just went there. At first, I was doing it at the game at like a natural kind of pace, where it's like, oh yeah, I'll do this much in the dungeon, and I'm kind of low on SP. But then you get to the point where you've got the things that recover your SP, and you have no reason to leave the dungeon. You should go in and complete it on the same day, because that's the best way to maximize your time. And you should also rack up like 50 Mementos requests and do them all in one day, because every day in the palace or in Mementos is a day that you can't spend, I think, unless you get a certain confidant, but I don't know which one it is, because I'm not really like referencing a guide as I play. That lets you do stuff in the evenings. I'm not positive on that. But if you're just playing normally like I was and you don't know how to do that, then
I was already familiar with those concepts because the other Persona games do the same thing, where it's like you have to sacrifice your day to go into the palace. And so like I was prepared for that with 5 from the beginning, and so I was min-maxing that stuff the whole time. Like, all right, I gotta do everything I can. I gotta get as far as I can, and that's one day. And so like a lot of the palaces, the actual palaces, they would build in those like artificial blockades, basically, where it's like, okay, you have to leave, you can't get any further. And
there's a couple things like that where it's like, we did this thing and now we got to go back and regroup or something,
and so that, you know, that keeps the pace going, where like you're not spending an entire day in the dungeon. But it's neat. I do recommend 4. It's just it does. You have definitely played by far the best Persona game, especially presentation wise. Like, holy shit, it's so good. But 4 is very lovable. I promise.
I gotta play it. I'm assuming an emulator is probably my best bet.
Someone in the chat says that they love us and that they're marathoning our podcasts. God bless their soul.
No,
damn.
Our podcasts are great. Frick you. Frick you.
If you like the podcast, I'm not judging. But everyone can like what they want. I'm just saying.
Speaking
there's a lot of good podcasts out there, and you're listening to this one.
I've been falling deeper down the report of the week rabbit hole.
Oh my god.
To the point where I actually listened for the first time to one of his VORWs. His I don't even know what to call them. They're not exactly podcasts, because he's just talking to. Well, I guess it's a podcast. He's talking to himself for like 3 hours.
Wow.
And it's just him, and it's this shitty microphone, and just the way his brain works and how he carries a conversation with himself for so long. There are some people that are able to do that, and they're not all crazy weirdos.
No.
I mean, Bill Burr does it. The Monday Morning Podcast it's a very interesting podcast because he's just carrying it solo. He's just sitting alone, just talking shit, and it's great. Yeah. He's able to. Some people can just carry a totally one-sided conversation, or maybe it's not one-sided. They create the other side of the conversation themselves, and he does that sort of. He goes on these weird tangents about. I can't even describe it. I honestly, he'll say something like, "Well, and the other day I was sitting out on my patio and heard a plane fly by, and I guess some people have places to go." I don't know what he says. It all just blurs together.
There's been a few times where I mentioned this way back when on one of the earlier podcast episodes that I listened to a few episodes of Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast.
Yeah, you told me about him.
And that guy is such a character. Like, he's just, he was talking about how frustrated he was with traffic, and then he just goes on this tangent about how he wished he could throw a chimpanzee out the window at the other drivers, and how he was fantasizing about that. And it can be very fun to just hear people's unfiltered conversations straight from the heart. No other input, just like, here's what they've come up with to say. There's something to be said for that.
The more I listen to him, the more like legitimately funny I think he is.
Yeah.
Like, he makes jokes.
He makes actual jokes. Yeah. He has an extremely dry sense of humor.
It is bone dry. It is Death Valley, middle of the Sahara dry.
Yeah.
So today we're trying the BBQ sauce. I don't know why anyone would find this much mayo attractive. They think that all Americans like to drown in mayo or something. Fuck, that's so good. Okay,
it's a character.
I can't talk about him anymore. I'll die. Now, stuff's going on. I think a couple things have been announced. Nidhogg 2, Game of the Year.
That was announced a long time ago.
I think they got a release date just recently. It's coming out in August. I'm not super into that, but Nidhogg was one of my brother's favorite games, so I'm sure I'll be playing that.
I get it. I get Nidhogg. I haven't really played it. I get it, though. It seems like a fun game to play with someone, but I was not a big fan of their art style when they first came out with what that game looked like. The second one, I mean. The sequel looks weird. Like, it's just a really weird. I guess it should be weird, but it's weird in a way that I'm not a big fan of.
Gross and cartoony.
It's like if The Simpsons had a grotesque element to it.
Simpsons is a good comparison, actually, to the proportions of everything.
Yeah, it's weird.
Didn't that new Overwatch character come out? I'm so done with
I don't know
Overwatch.
their
I haven't
name.
played that in
I know lots of people who still
months.
play it, but
It's not a bad game.
whatever.
Not
no,
trying
it's a
to say
great
that.
game. It's a well-made game that I don't like and don't want to play any more of.
I want to play that Edith Finch game.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, it looks cool. It looks cool. Joseph Anderson made a good video about it, and admittedly, it spoiled the game for me, but I still want to play it. Like the story that I had spoiled was still interesting enough to me that I want to actually play it.
I don't know. I haven't been paying that much attention because
Sorry.
I've had shit going on in life, like the cruise and whatnot. I've been basically away from town every weekend, so I just haven't had a lot of time. I never like saying that. I don't have time to play video games and stuff because it's never true. But I have not been spending my time on video games or reading about video games or anything.
Yeah.
So I feel out of the loop right now in a way that I usually don't. But that's kind of how the post E3 summer months always feel for me. Is like I get out of the loop for a couple months, and then like stuff starts coming out again, and it gets me back into it. But like right now, I'm just kind of in this daze of like, yeah, I guess people are playing the Splatoon 2 beta or something, and ARMS, and I don't know. I haven't been doing that.
There's been no virtual console for the Switch, which blows.
Yeah.
They just need to do that.
They take their time with that shit.
Do that, and then we're gold. We're good.
Do that, and you'll earn your way to the next level.
Sort of unrelated and bringing us back a little bit, but what's the difference between like Persona 4 Golden and regular? Is Golden's like the complete version, right? Is that the story? Golden
is like a hugely added upon version. Like they added entire characters and social links and a lot of cutscenes. Like they turned it into they added a ton of anime cutscenes of scenes that already existed in the game but were in like the 3D part of the game. Mm-hmm. That's not the version that I'm familiar with, and I've seen a lot of it on YouTube and stuff, but personally I don't like it because it's different. Specifically Chie and Teddy's voice is different. It's a different voice actor, and they just reread all the lines, and that was uncomfortable to me because you get really close to those characters and then you hear them with an entirely different voice, and it's like, ugh. So I kind of am biased against it. I think it's probably fine if it's your first impression of the game, but to be familiar with the regular version and then to go to the golden version, it's like kind of just weird and icky to me.
It's only for the Vita though, is it?
I don't know what it came out on. I think it came out on the PlayStation. It almost definitely did. But I guess it would be an okay version to start with to play. I just am biased against it. I think Chie and Teddy's voice. They're two of my favorite characters, and I hate their voices in the golden version. And I don't know.
That would be enough to kill it, honestly.
I still don't know if it's just me like being like, well, it's different, and so I don't like it, or whether that's objectively valid, though. In my head worse. Because I like those characters. I think Teddy's is worse. For sure, because he had a great voice act. Like you know how they pulled off the Mona like cute weird character in the English version of 5. He's kind of the same way of like this character should not work in English and does.
And I didn't know this, but it's the same voice actress as 2B's radio operator assistant in Nier.
Yeah. And they sound nothing alike. But yeah, I don't know. The regular version is going to be a lot shorter, and so maybe in some ways that's like a good thing. Like, I think the golden version is really bloated. It seems like, but it's probably around the same length as 5 in the end. But I don't know. I like the regular version.
Okay, so, well I need to play that.
yeah, definitely. Give it a shot. Or start with Persona 3. Emulate it. Go all the way back.
It'll probably be less painful, but I think it's already going to be painful to try to go back.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think 4 will be that painful. It's just you're gonna miss the style of it.
Right.
But it still has a lot of style. It's just not nearly as significant, you know.
I tried PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And didn't play it for very long, but I had some fun. It's just if you got 4 people, then
it's
you can go
fun.
and mess around.
It's a game that's fun to play with friends. Imagine that.
There are games that are not fun to play with friends.
That's true. But I've talked about it. I've got issues with it that I don't think will be solved.
I didn't have any of the same issues though, or maybe I'm misremembering what you said. But I remember you had a problem with the perspective, the third-person perspective.
Yes.
I don't.
Really?
No.
I hate it.
Because I didn't find many instances where I felt like it was helping or hurting me, really. But I don't know, I just didn't mind it. And I liked being able to, if I'm running in a group, then I can kind of swing my head around and, you know how you hold down Alt and then you can move the mouse to sort of look around as you run away? Like when you're just sprinting through a field with 3 friends. And it's fun. I don't know. I don't feel strongly about it. It's not like I think the game is better for being in third person as an option, but it didn't bother me at all. And I didn't really find those situations where, oh yeah, I felt like somebody got the drop on me because they had that extra angle.
I rarely found myself thinking, well, yeah, I do. I maybe the more you play it, the more you start to realize how big of an effect it has, especially when you get down to like the last few people remaining. But like, again, being able to see people when they can't see you is just fundamentally a pretty crazy idea. And you could say, well, it's fair because either one can do it, but I think it's not fun to have those situations. And then I did have multiple instances where I'd be in like a house trying to shoot out a window and would just hit the windowsill. That never happened to you? Because that happened to me constantly. Just like unloading on the like you're trying to shoot over a window and you just unload into the windowsill underneath, and then they know exactly where you are and you have to reload, and it's just like, god damn it, it's the most frustrating thing in the world to me. And I haven't played a third person shooter in so long. Like in a lot of ways, I think third person shooters are kind of a thing of the past. And like what's the last third person shooter that came out that was a big deal that people cared about? Like
multiplayer or any?
Either. Gears of War.
Last of Us.
Yeah.
As far as like original things go,
I wouldn't call it a shooter, but
Uncharted stuff.
Still wouldn't call it
a
shooter.
There aren't that many. Mass Effect.
No. I still wouldn't call it a shooter. But
games with shooting in them.
I'm a big first person proponent. I think I think it removes a lot of situations that hurt the game, in my opinion. But I also know for a fact, because DayZ proved this back in the day.
I don't think the game is good enough to be terribly hurt.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
got many other problems that...
Yeah, it does. I mean, they're fixing a lot of the problems. I'll give them credit. And it's still impressive when you think about it. Like, okay, yeah, 100 people on one server, that gets tough. Like,
yeah, that is especially being able to see them all in the waiting room before it starts. That's very cool.
Yeah, and the frame rate drops and stuff, but like it's still impressive that that's a lot of stuff going on. And you see them all jumping out of the plane and all that stuff, and so it is impressive in that regard. But like, it's a janky kind of messed up game.
The single worst thing about it, in my mind, is the delay in picking items up.
Oh,
that
man.
feels so bad that it...
Looting is the worst part of the game.
Yes, and it's something that is integral to the game. That's like half of what you should be doing at least, is scavenging for better stuff. And whenever you click to pick something up, there's like this sloppy 3 seconds so delay where you hit the button and you kind of reach out and then gets added to your inventory, and it's like this super sluggish process.
Yeah. I feel like it's a way of them hiding the lag or something.
Maybe.
I feel like I feel like there's more lag in that game than I feel like they do a good job of polishing over it, but that there's a lagginess and a jankiness to that game that hurts it a lot,
But,
especially.
like, at least use some kind of trick. At least have it disappear from my screen immediately or something. Like,
Yeah, I agree. You should be able to run into a pile of stuff, and if you want to pick it all up, just
it
go.
should be pa, 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 pa. Yeah,
it should be done.
exactly. Right.
I will give them
or
credit.
if you don't want people to be able to do that, put some kind of animation that
Yeah,
makes
I do
it clear
think the
that's what's
inventory
going on.
system. Once you learn the inventory system, it does work a lot better than those kinds of games usually do. There's still some stuff in it, like splitting up items is a pain in the ass and stuff, but like for the most part, it works pretty well. So I don't know. It's for its genre and for what it's pulling off, I have to give it some slack, but it still has those issues. And I think the time to kill sucks too. How long it takes
Yeah.
to kill
It's a long time.
is not, especially once people get all the armor and stuff. Like, I shouldn't be shooting at someone fucking 5 times with an AK
Or like 2-point
in the
blank
chest.
shotgun to the
Yeah.
torso.
Like,
But
I
they've got
think,
a vest on, so they were fine.
I think part of the reason they do that is because people would be really frustrated if they play for 30 minutes and then just get, clobbered with no chance of survival. And when it's got that long delay on it, you feel like you get at least a chance of fighting back, even if you get jumped on. But I think if you get jumped on, you should just get fucking murdered. I mean, like, it's really frustrating when you're in like a medium range battle where like there's 2 people hiding behind trees and you're just sitting there hitting each other and not dying, and that's it's frustrating and annoying. Yeah, I get why people. I know some people who play the shit out of that game, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. They just can't get enough of it, and I got sick of it really quick. And once I like learned the map, that was another thing. Like, I just got tired of the map really quick too. I don't know what it is about the map that like I found
totally
myself
agree.
following the same routes for like looting purposes and stuff, and like, oh god, I'm just doing the same shit over and over and over, and it's
Basically got less fun every time.
yeah. So, and especially once I realized that like a thing that I was doing is purposefully jumping out in high populated areas, because I figured like, well, I just want to get right into the combat, and if I die, then I'll be able to just start over again really quick. It's like, I don't know. That's
Right,
not what
you
I'm
either
looking at.
die and then you can retry, or
Yeah.
you kill everybody and then you're in shape.
So, eh.
Meh.
The
Pretty
glory
meh.
days, yeah.
Game's
The,
pretty meh.
the glory days of DayZ will never return. I'm
I
one of
was
the
never into that.
I'm one of the few people that actually looks back at that game fondly. A lot of people really despise. I think it's popular to hate on it. There's a lot of haters and trolls out there, but I like it.
Bitches
Or
and
I don't
tricks.
know how it is now. I don't care how it is now, but I liked it when it was at that initial surge of popularity where it was still just a weird Arma
Well, you
mod.
have the stomach for Arma. That's another thing. I don't. I
Yeah.
can't stand that game.
I played some Arma before DayZ, and so I knew some of the most basic stuff in Arma, but I learned Arma in DayZ. Like, I learned the most intricate weirdness of that engine in DayZ. So
I guess
yeah,
I'm just
I was
not
able to stomach it because I liked that game a lot.
that patient. I'm
Yeah.
not
It's a
patient
patience
enough to learn how to fumble with the menus and stuff. And
Yeah.
not DayZ, Arma even.
Well, Arma 3 is better about that stuff than Arma 2 was, but it's still crazy janky and very tough to learn for sure. But it kind of needs to be, because it's trying to do a whole lot of stuff at once, and it does most of that stuff okay.
I appreciate it. I think I'm glad a game like that exists. It's not for me.
Yeah. Arma still has a lot to sort out itself, but again, impressive ambition and a relatively small team and small budget for what it is. It just fucking needs to work better. All those games. They're always the ambitious games that have the small teams that can't really do what they need to do
Yep.
with it. Like you need like a fucking triple
They
A
always bite off more.
to go in there and like make a competent one of those games. But then if it was a AAA team working on it and appealing to the lowest common denominator,
You'd be like, we can't make it too complicated.
It wouldn't be any good. And so there's the rub. That's how the cookie crumbles. All right. I don't think I have.
Balls bounce.
Yes, I don't think I have anything else to talk about really.
I don't really either. I played Bayonetta. It was on Steam. It was cheap, and I always wanted to play that, and this is the best way to. So I started it. It's tough. It's not like Nier.
Really?
It's an actual in-depth hack and slash game with complicated combos and combat. But honestly, I'm not too big a fan, and maybe Smash just spoiled me on this for years. But the set combos, something about that is just inherently contrived. That if you press BXXA, then this move happens.
I don't like that stuff either.
I'm in the same boat. And that is a lot of what Bayonetta is. So it is definitely more of a as a character action game, it's got more grit and integrity than something like Nier, because it really is about the combat. It's about the mechanics and how you master them and execute on what you learn. But that said, it's not all that fun to just input button combinations, and the camera blows. It sucks. The camera is awful, and I'm surprised because it seems like that'd be kind of hard to screw up in a game like that. Just make it something like Dark Souls or Nier, where the camera's not.
Well, don't say
much.
Dark Souls, because Dark Souls had plenty of camera problems.
Well, you know what I mean. Most of the time, it's not doing anything. Like maybe if you get in a hallway, but like if you're just walking around, the camera is not like deciding what you should be looking at. Is what I mean.
Right.
Like, you are walking, and then you turn the corner, and you turn the camera to go with you. And in Bayonetta, it's just like picking what to look at almost random. And I don't know, maybe I'm just dumb and there's some way to turn that off or manipulate it somehow. I haven't found it, and it's not bad to the point where I think it's a feature gone wrong. I think it's just kind of unpleasant a non-negligible amount of the time. So other than that, it's a very, very cool game. Not my favorite. It's not one of the best games ever made. It's not Platinum's best game. I think Metal Gear Rising is better. But whatever. Some people like it a whole lot more. Some people
I know
are
people
super
love
into
it.
that, like, button combo heavy combat system. I'm not, but I like the game a lot, and the presentation is also top notch. The cutscenes, surprisingly, are great. Don't skip the cutscenes. If you play Bayonetta, do not skip the cutscenes. They're great. They're like over the top, Kamiya doing his Hideo Kojima impression kind of thing. They're really funny. They're well done. Even if you don't play the game, just go see some of the cutscenes on YouTube. Especially that opening cutscene. That's a real killer. But not much more to say about that.
Yeah, I again, not really any video games. I watched the Star Wars Rogue One.
Shit, yeah.
It was. Wait, is your microphone working?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It is. I liked it as a movie and not at all as a Star Wars movie. I have really mixed feelings about it. Like I appreciate that they're trying to do something different with Star Wars, but it's so latched onto what Star Wars is. Like not only is the entire plot about setting up the plot for Star Wars Episode 4, it's also just full of references. Some of them like really fan servicey, and some of them just like, well, of course it's because it's a Star Wars thing. But like the Rebels keep saying, "May the Force be with you," and why are the Rebels saying
Star
that?
Wars.
What do the Rebels have to do with Jedis at this point? Like they don't even know about the Force, do they? Or they don't care about the like. Who cares about the Force? Like that doesn't have anything to do with anything. And so like why
about the Force? Star Wars does.
Suddenly the Rebels are really into the Force, and like I don't know where that came from. And there's so many references, like Red One checking in, like that kind of stuff, constantly, and I was like, ugh, and it's really, really bizarre because the movie is so dark and grimy and just, ugh, and like it doesn't at all feel like it doesn't at all feel like Star Wars, and then it's constantly referencing it being Star Wars.
I like the ways that it's different, and
I appreciate
that
it's
like
different.
the ways that it's not, for the most part.
I feel like it shouldn't have been a Star Wars movie, or
I'm fine
maybe
with that.
set it in that universe and make it less about that particular story.
There'd be no movie if it wasn't a Star Wars movie, but I agree with what you're saying that they should have distanced it even more. Like it should have been even more different.
Why does the Death Star weakness have to be like this built-in thing that was like this grand plan and all that stuff? Like, shit, man, it was just a porthole that they found that worked. I don't know. I just it rubs me in a lot of wrong ways.
It reminded me in that way of the Metal Gear Solid 5 ending.
Yeah,
where it
like retroactively, like you're like
over explains what's to come as a prequel, but it explains stuff that nobody needed explained.
Exactly. Yeah. And just
like, how did we get the plans?
Who cares?
But the movie, like the story of getting the plans was kind of cool. But the problem is that the payoff is the ending scene where Leia gets the plans and is like, I have the plans. If it maybe ended on that beach or something, I don't know. There's stuff you could do with it to close. Well, if it ended on the beach, like the character story, it doesn't have to end on the beach, but the ending of the story should have felt like the resolution of the main characters of the movie, not.
I guess it's death, and then the final scene, which also includes a lot of death. And it's like, God damn! Like I kept picturing your 10 or 11-year-old, the person the kid who watched Star Wars Episode 7 and they're excited for the next Star Wars, and they watch this and they're like, Mommy, why are they all dying? Why is everyone dying? Oh my God, did they get blown up? Yep, everyone's dead. Everyone is dead. Also, you don't remember any of their names or anything about them because they're not very interesting characters, really.
I remember the robot, and I remember
the only comic relief in the movie,
Jyn Erso, but I forget who that is. I just remember the name.
I think that's the main character girl, but I wouldn't have been able to say her name. I don't know. I don't know. None of it matters. They're all dead, and they weren't all that interesting. And boy, I don't know. It was a good war movie. It would have been a good World War II movie. I think that's what they were going for, is like a gritty actual war movie. And like, I know it's called Star Wars, but war sucks, and Star Wars is about adventure, and war is not about adventure. Actual war sucks, and that's what they showed was actual war, and it sucked. And I don't know. It was still it was well made and everything, just like not Star Wars.
I saw. Oh, go ahead.
I immediately followed it with Logan, which was like, whew, now we're getting into a whole other like depressing.
Is that out on Blu-ray now? I missed that in the theaters, but I kind of wanted to see it.
Probably, and I should clarify, I haven't seen like the last like 15 or 20 minutes. I haven't seen like the final battle scene. No, I was on a plane.
Oh, okay.
And so I didn't see the end of it, and I still haven't seen it. But I liked what I saw a lot. It is my favorite superhero movie, even without seeing the ending yet. I can say it's my favorite superhero movie that I've seen in a very long time. And I enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy 2 as well, but like this one has a lot more to it. There's a lot going on with actual characters and stuff, and that was really refreshing in a superhero movie. I'd barely even call it a superhero movie, but it's one of those. But or it's not one of those, but it came from the company that makes all those. I really like what Logan's doing a lot. It was kind of tough to follow it up from Star Wars, where it's like, ooh, this is a franchise that's all about fun being turned into like really gritty, dark, and death. And now I go straight into a franchise that's all about fun and gets turned into gritty, dark death. So it was a little bit like overwhelming, but still, I liked it.
I also saw some movies. I saw Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was good. Whatever.
Okay. Do you see Baby Driver?
I did. And
I really want to see Baby Driver.
that was a lot more interesting, to say the least. It fits right in with Edgar Wright's movies. It's probably better than The World's End. Not as good as Hot Fuzz. Shaun of the Dead. Still very, very good. Probably his best technical direction, like by a mile, just because of all the practical effects. I read that there is no green screen used. And for the amount of car stunts that they execute, that's incredible, if that's true.
Yeah. Cool.
It's honestly amazing visually. And the whole thing is like set to music. And I mean that in like, it's edited and choreographed to music. Almost like if you see the Suicide Squad trailer where they're playing Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm not the first one to make this point, by the way. I can't remember where I heard it, though. But I just need to point it out. Where it's that lame-ass, to the beats of Bohemian Rhapsody, like the Joker is firing guns, and it's like pow, pow, pow to the beat.
Right.
Well, just imagine that instead of like being pumped out by some trailer house, like a minute and 30-second thing that syncs up to the music, it's an entire movie where even just like little beats where characters are talking and I don't know, maybe somebody's drinking a cup of coffee and they set it down on the table and it's perfectly in time with the music, like the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's great. The editing is fantastic. It's amazing. And so are the visuals and the direction. The story is it's not weak. It's not a weak story, but it's also not super compelling.
Does it follow his formula of the first half being entirely setups for the last half?
No.
Interesting.
Actually.
Okay.
It's more of a. It starts out ridiculously intense for a good while, and then it settles down for the middle, and then it ramps back up at the end.
People are talking about World's End in the chat, and you mentioned that. It's good, but like I remember being kind of very mildly, because I still enjoyed it a lot, but disappointed with it. Like
it just was not as good as.
Yeah, it just didn't really live up to expectations, but it there's that video that one of the big video essay people on YouTube made. I don't know which one. I guess it's Every Frame of Painting. He did a video largely about World's End and comparing it, really all his movies, and comparing them to shitty, just fucking blockbuster comedies. And
it was Every Frame of Painting.
Yeah, you get a real appreciation for the amount of work that goes into the tiniest little gags in those movies. And The World's End, is totally full of those too. And that's really his advantage as a director is the way that they're edited to be funny rather than just funny because it's a joke and you're supposed to laugh, and like there's a lot more that goes into it.
One thing that I kind of liked is that it was less comedic than any other of his movies.
The trailer didn't. Yeah, the trailer was like definitely okay. I can definitely tell this is a comedic movie, but like it didn't seem like as like a focused comedy.
Yeah, it's definitely not
surprising.
I don't even know if I'd call it a comedy.
Really?
It's an action movie first, for sure. And
cool.
Then I don't even know if you'd call it an action comedy. It's funny. It's got a sense of humor, but it's somewhat serious, or at least the stakes get high and it's treated seriously, and nobody's cracking wise exactly, or they kind of do, but compared to like the Cornetto trilogy with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, it's nothing like that. which is good for him as a director to do something that's a lot different, but still his signature style, because he's versatile. He doesn't need to only do these comedy movies or Scott Pilgrim or whatever. He's got genuine technical chops as a director, and this movie was just like putting that on display for like really impressive filmmaking, if nothing else.
Yeah, I need to see that soon. It's
See
one
it
of
in
the few.
theaters. See it.
Yeah,
in
it's one of the
theaters.
few movies that I've been like, okay, I need to go see that in theaters because I want to see it right away. Apparently, I've heard that there's just like going to be a re-release of Close Encounters of the Third Kind in some select theaters. I'm gonna have to see that one too because that would be a very good movie to see in theaters. And then there's the Blade Runner coming out that I would like to see in theaters. And
Just for the director alone, I'm already
well,
in.
of course, yeah. If it was just if it was some no-name director and it was here's a popular '80s movie that we're pushing out the door for, I would be not interested in the least bit. But
Speaking
his
of
name being on it,
things that don't need sequels. Did you see the Fully Cooley 2 and 3 trailer?
yeah, I did.
What do you think of that?
I was actually impressed with it. I've heard a lot of negativity about it, and I think to me it looked like Fully Cooley and sounded like Fully Cooley.
Well,
But a lot of
it's the pillow, so yeah, it sounds like Fully
well,
Cooley.
yeah, yeah. But like I don't know it was more of a teaser than a trailer because it's just
Yeah.
very quick scenes. But like I was like, okay, yeah, I could. This seems like okay, and I know that like practically none of the people originally involved are involved again or something like that. I don't know the details of it, but people seem really negative about it, and I am as big a fan of Fully Cooley as they come, and I was kind of impressed with it. I was like, oh, I'll check that out, and that might be cool. So I don't know. What did you think?
I think it was pretty cool. Visuals and the music, obviously great. In general, there's not much you can
Exactly, it is a
gather from
teaser.
it, but the style, I think's kind of lost a little something. It looks more like, I don't know what you would call this style because I don't watch enough anime. Well, maybe I watch just enough anime, and that's not enough to know what to call this. But that like Kill la Kill style,
Okay, yeah.
where I don't know, it's less unique than the original Fully Cooley. Just
I think you half
art-wise,
unplugged the microphone.
did I didn't actually do anything.
I can hear you fine. Okay, there you go.
I really am just too dumb to explain what I mean here, but
No, I guess I get what you're
looks
saying.
more like Gurren Lagann and
Gurren Lagann is what I
Kill
was
la
going to
Kill
say. Yeah.
than what I was used to from Fully Cooley.
I think if you went through and you took basically just a sampling almost at random of Fully Cooley scenes, you would be surprised at how, first of all, typically anime some of it looks like, and also how weird some of the art is, and maybe even you could say bad or like not to your liking. Like it constantly. I mean, that's part of the thing about it is that it constantly switches art styles. In like even in the course of one scene, and like when you're just getting fed these like
I
1 or
just
2 second
rewatched it,
clips.
like last week.
Nice. When you're being fed those 1 or 2 second clips, like you don't know what the context is, and so like I can't say that it, because like most of it didn't feel like that. It was just little segments of it. I don't know. I only really watched it like once on my phone,
Yeah, I
and
don't
so
want to judge it.
I don't really know. I need
I'll
to look
watch
at it
it.
again, but
I'll definitely watch it.
yeah, I think it's exciting to see. Oh, someone said it has the same director as Kill la Kill, so there you go.
Really? That explains it.
Yeah.
I knew that was coming from somewhere.
I think part of the reason that I hesitate to be negative about it is because it's one of those things that's the original season, I guess, the original series, whatever you want to call that, is so iconic that the sequel is never going to live up to it. And
it's iconic and perfectly open
Yeah.
and shut.
it really is perfect. Like I love it. It's so well wrapped. And so like my first reaction to there being a sequel was like, why? but then I guess I kind of just accepted it, and I see it as kind of a different thing. Like it's someone else taking their shot at doing it, and I don't feel like in my head it's going to detract from it no matter how bad it is. Like whatever, it's a separate thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree there.
Yeah,
This could be the worst piece of shit of all time, and it would not change my opinion of the
No.
show. Like,
And so, because there's some things where it's like I hear there's a sequel and I'm like, oh god, they could really mess it up. Like they could really mess up how much I enjoy this. But I just don't see this as that because, like we said, it's such a packaged thing. It doesn't. It feels separate from that, and so I don't know if they're gonna give it a shot, if it's inevitable that it's gonna be made. I was impressed with what they put out in the teaser because it looked fine.
it's almost like a better case scenario than something like the Evangelion rebuilds, where those.
That's something that
Some of
I've
them are
been
good.
purposefully not watching because I feel like it would
Well,
mess with me.
one is just like a compression of some episodes. It's just
Sure.
like better animation, and they change some stuff. Two, I think, is kind of bad, and they change a lot of stuff, but they do some interesting things too. Three is a really different, complete deviation from the show, and I appreciate it for that. But my overall impression of those rebuild movies is to sort of question how well planned out everything was in the first place. And at least because it's somebody else taking a crack at Fooly Cooley, there's no risk of that materializing.
Yeah. And I'm glad that it's not. I mean, it would be obviously awful if it was like a remake or something. But it looks like, first of all, they only showed one recurring character, I think, which is what's her name, the alien,
Haruko.
Haru. And so it's not like they're throwing everything back at you and being like, look, it's more of what you love. It seems like they're just
swinging
kind
the
of
bat again.
yeah yeah, you gotta do it again.
That would be
He's on
great.
first base this time. No, I mean, yeah, so whatever. I who cares? If it's bad, who cares is my opinion. And if it's good, then cool, more good Fooly Cooley stuff. But and someone mentioned the live action Cowboy Bebop, which I feel
God,
the exact
fuck
same
it,
way about.
who
I guess
cares? That
I don't think there's any way that can be good. But
no, exactly right. I've got hope for Fooly Cooley. I think you can make that good.
Yeah.
Definitely.
live action Cowboy Bebop.
Not a
I would be
chance.
very interested in seeing it just to see what people's interpretation of making that live action would be. But
Is that even like real? I've heard.
I think so. Yeah, I think they announced
I've
it.
heard
officially.
there's a live
yeah.
action Cowboy Bebop coming
Yeah, I
soon
know.
for like 10 years.
No, I think they're actually doing it. I mean, they're doing it with Death Note. They're doing it with all sorts of
Oh.
stuff. So, yeah.
Well,
There's gonna
Death
be a
Note,
Netflix. No.
Death Note was always bad, so it doesn't matter.
I'm a defender of the first half of Death Note
Well, yeah, because it was fine. It was good before
Until it
they had
wasn't.
to make the story. And then,
I guess you're right. It was good up until it wasn't. So, what? But yeah. Maybe Netflix will make it and be like, all right, let's make it actually good and have a good story instead of shitty with a bad story. Maybe, but it'll be whitewashed.
that's true. Fuck
Yeah.
Whitey.
I wonder if Cowboy Bebop would be whitewashed. Anyway.
I definitely hope. When did I know we can go in a while, but when did
Spike should
Better
be Idris
Call-
Elba.
when did Better Call Saul end? Was that
Couple
in
weeks
between
ago.
episodes? If I
Yes,
talked about
definitely.
it, I'm sorry, but
No.
okay. It just keeps getting better. The show
I don't know
is
about
getting
better. It maintains
season.
being great.
Did you
I like
finish
it a
this
lot.
last one?
Yes, yeah.
God, so good.
Yeah.
Such a great. I don't want to say again, but they handled that with such class.
That yeah.
They did not
I,
leave any cliffhangers. That's the key. There's no cliffhanger in
well,
play. It's,
yeah,
there will
cliffhanger-
clearly be
cliffhanger in a broad term.
consequences.
yeah.
You don't know what those consequences will be, but you're not left wondering what happened.
Yeah.
So
Um,
I just
I really enjoyed. I guess it was the last episode. I'm not spoiler free. I really enjoyed the scene. How do I keep this spoiler free? The very destructive scene.
That was
The
terrible.
long one.
That
was such a good depiction of like mental illness, and like it was just really like oof, like you could feel yourself kind of like sweating because like you
see
get
where
so
it's going.
attached
You
and
just-
like yeah, it's oof, it very 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 well done. I'm extremely impressed
and
with
not,
that show.
I haven't really had people in my life that are that level of
Yeah.
disturbed,
Yeah.
but for some reason it just seems very realistic that if somebody were to self implode, it wouldn't be some dramatic thing where they cry. I can't say anymore.
Yeah.
But-
yeah. Someone said
Yeah.
season 4 might not happen because the show's not getting enough audience. I don't believe that.
It's already renewed. I'm pretty sure it's already confirmed. So
Well, there you go. I don't know. I know it has much less of an audience than like Breaking Bad did, but like I'm sure it's doing pretty well.
now I need to just check this because yeah, it's confirmed. Season 4,
Okay.
10 episodes.
I like it a lot.
It's like that and The Walking Dead. What else is more popular on AMC?
Or in general, like on what would you call it, prestige television.
Game of
Westworld and Game of Thrones
Westworld.
aren't airing right now. Twin Peaks season 3 is a very very niche audience.
Yeah, prestige TV. I actually I
Man.
watched the first episode of Twin Peaks. I'd never seen it before.
Twin Peaks season 1,
Yes, Twin Peaks season 1. Never
the
seen
first
it.
like the double episode, like the big pilot episode.
Yeah. It's very
What'd you think?
interesting. I
Yeah.
didn't know what to expect, and it was still not that.
Yeah. I
I was
watched
surprised
through.
by how like just legitimately upsetting
Yeah.
it is.
In fact, like the first 30 minutes or so are so upsetting. I was like, I don't know if I even really want to watch this show because it was just like so like, oh my god,
It's
just
not.
constantly
I was
people being
expecting some
depressed.
quirky thing, like,
And it is quirky, but
but that
Yeah.
it's not just a quirky thing is maybe why it has.
that's what's so weird about it. I watched the entirety of Twin Peaks, the existing stuff, since I haven't talked about it. It was several weeks ago though, but it is at times a soap opera, like a genuine soap opera, but also kind of self-aware about it being a soap opera, but then not really being a parody of it either. Just like actually doing soap opera shit, but then pointing out very obviously that, hey, this is soap opera shit. Like the characters in the show are watching a soap opera that mirrors the events of the show and stupid shit like that. And then at times totally fucking random and nonsensical, and it really is like lay random, I know, but it can be totally random sometimes where you're just like something comes completely out of left field and then it goes to the next scene and you're just left going, what? It doesn't happen so often that it's, you know, oh, the whole show is just random quirkiness. It just happens every once in a while where you're like, what the fuck was that? And then it just moves on. And sometimes that pays off, and most of the time it's just something weird that happened, and it's never explained or anything. Season 2, I'm sure you've heard that like season 2 is like
after he
this
left.
big drop in quality. Like the first 8 or so episodes of season 2 are pretty good, and then they basically finish the main plot, and then they still have half
Yeah,
the
that's
season
what I
to go. Yeah.
I heard that they kind of forced him to wrap it up. And
exactly.
he
Yeah,
left.
the executives
or
and
he
then
pulled back and then sort of returned to set things
Yeah.
straight, and then it was over.
yeah, the finale is good, but the last half of season 2 before the finale it's weak. It's not terrible. It's still fun. There's still a lot of good stuff in it, but it's weak.
I'm sure going into it with low expectations might help. me
Yes,
too.
exactly. Going into it with low expectations is great because you end up going like, okay, I see why people criticize this, but I'm still enjoying it, and I'm still, into it. And then, no spoilers, but you get to the end of the season and you realize in retrospect how pointless some of it was, where you're like, oh, okay, I really get it. I really get it now, where like it was just totally aimless, and I didn't even realize at the time how aimless it was. But season 3 is some wild shit, man. I'm not going to go into it because there's a lot to say about it. And I can't say it.
I still know so little. I don't know the characters' names even really at this point.
Yeah. But I will say Twin Peaks, I think they even do this in season 1. They reference something happening 25 years from now. And that show was made in 1990 and 1991. And so we're a little bit more than 25 years out from it.
Oh, God.
And so they just bring all the characters back and continue the plot in a way that actually makes sense.
Wow, that's impressive.
From the way that season 2 ends. And it's, I mean, almost all of the actors, even a lot of the really minor characters, are back, and they're 25 years older, and so are their characters. It is, I don't think anything like it has ever been done before. It is so fucking weird seeing all these people back being their same characters.
Took 25 years to make.
25 years. Yeah, take that, Boyhood. But it also is I think, experimental project by David Lynch, who is already very strange. And
he strikes me as the type, though, that maybe didn't have it planned, but was like, hi, it'd be kinda...
Oh, well, they definitely didn't plan from the... They planned to have a season 3 right after season 2, and then it just got canceled. Like, season 2 ends with cliffhangers where and then it just gets canceled. But they didn't plan for that, but then they just kind of cobbled this thing together, and they said that the fact that it's 25 years later or so is a big factor of it. Like, hey, this is a good time to bring it back, and we want to finish the story and all that stuff. And so it's really cool that they're doing it. But David Lynch is a strange man, and he...
I found out about him through an episode of Louie.
Yeah, he's in Louie.
That one? That was great.
It was great. He does some stuff with season 3 that is surreal to the point of obnoxious. There'll be like 3-minute long scenes where basically nothing happens. In one of the latest episodes, there was a musical interlude by Nine Inch Nails, and it was just them playing an entire song. And it was like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, I mean, it was fine. Like, I don't have anything against Nine Inch Nails. I know some people are really into them. I don't care. The song was fine, but why the fuck am I watching Nine Inch Nails play an entire song?
Oh, like it showed you the band.
They were up on stage in the show, and it just showed you the band playing this song for 3 minutes. I don't know if it was 3 minutes. It was as long as the song is, which is probably around 3 minutes. It felt like it might have been longer than that. It probably was, actually, now that I think about it. Because like most of the episodes will end with a live performance by some band. Like, that's one of the things they're doing with this season or whatever. They're like showcasing some of these bands, and they're playing in the Roadhouse, which is a place in Twin Peaks. And so it'll be like Nine Inch Nails is playing in Twin Peaks at the Roadhouse, which is like this little bar. And whatever, though, they usually show it at the end, and then the credits roll, or the credits roll while it's being shown. And so, or like there'll be dialogue cut between it. But no, this was like 10 minutes into this episode, boom, Nine Inch Nails performance.
Right.
And then like a 30-minute sequence of just like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on. This is crazy and weird. And I kind of enjoyed it, but also was just totally confused in a way that it doesn't feel like it's going to get paid off to me, because we're like over halfway through the season and there's just a lot to wrap up and not a lot of wrapping up happening. Although I will say the latest episode really pushed the plot forward a lot in a way that I wasn't expecting. So maybe it'll actually pay off. He said what he's doing with season 3 is like making I think it's 18 hours total. He said he's going to make an 18-hour movie. And so it's ambitious, and also like, okay, so we've spent the first several episodes are, the first 30 minutes of a movie drawn out for like 5 hours. And that can be really tedious, I think. But I don't know. I'm sticking with it because I'm really interested to see what he does, and a lot of it I really like. Even the stuff I don't like, in a lot of ways, I really like, and I kind of feel the same way about season 1 and 2. Also, where like there's some bad shit in there that I'm kind of like, this just isn't very good TV, but at the same time, I kind of love it. So I don't know. Really mixed feelings. Twin Peaks is a weird show. I recommend it to anyone who's ready to watch a weird ass fucking show.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people like. So I was talking about it kind of offhandedly with my family, just kind of like, yeah, I've been watching this show and it's really weird, and they're reviving it after 25 years. Well, my parents started watching season 1 and 2. And I was like, okay, go for it. I just didn't think it was going to be their thing. They liked it up until the last episode. I don't know. Like, I thought the last episode was great. It leaves you with some cliffhangers that don't get resolved. But like, I think it was a really strong finish, and they hated it. They liked the show up until that point. And I was like, all right, whatever. That's a weird opinion because that's not what most people feel. But I think everyone experiences that show differently. It's a personal journey.
Well, I'll embark on it. I was interested enough in the first episode. I'll probably keep it up.
Yeah, so someone in the chat said, sorry, I'm gonna keep going here. Someone in the chat said it was the episode that I was talking about was a big middle finger to like TV and viewers and stuff like that. And I think people are using that as like an excuse for bad TV. Like, if it sucks to watch, it sucks to watch, regardless of whatever his intent is or isn't. Like, first of all, I think people are calling David Lynch a troll when I don't think that's what he's doing, is trolling people or whatever. I think that's a way to just hand wave some of this shit that he's doing, and I don't think it's an excuse either. And if it is trolling, I think that just sucks. Like, well, what's the point in just being like, ooh, look, I'm doing this thing that's pissing off a lot of people because it's boring. Ha ha. Like, what's the joke? I don't get it. What's the joke behind a several minute long scene of someone sweeping up peanuts off the floor? I don't get the joke. Is the joke that people get bored watching it? Because if so, I guess I'm the butt of the joke, but whatever. I don't know. People have weird opinions about that show. That show has the most avid defenders of probably anything on TV ever. And so there's a horde of people on the internet that are like saying it's the most genius thing in the world, literally. And I don't think it is. I think it's cool, and I think there's some really genius stuff in it. But there's also just some shitty stuff and bad performances and even bad writing. And I think some people are unwilling to acknowledge that. But they're just going to call me, I don't understand it, basically. I'm not smart enough to get what David Lynch is actually doing. So there you go. All right, enough ranting. It's been a long podcast, I think.
It has. It's been a good one, though. I think it's been a good show. Guys, thanks for tuning in to the report. We'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Bye-bye.